I'm late. My watch, a sleek piece that costs more than I care to admit, clicks with quiet precision each time I flick my wrist, a reminder I can't ignore as I steer my Audi through the leafy streets of the suburban cul-de-sac I once called home. My grip tightens on the wheel the moment the family house comes into view, that oversized white colonial with navy shutters looking just as grand and just as suffocating as it did in high school. I'm 28, the youngest senior director in my firm's history, yet the nerves twist in my stomach like I'm 17 again, sneaking in past curfew. I glance in the rearview mirror, giving myself a once-over in my tailored blazer. Everything's in place. Lipstick sharp, hair controlled to perfection, not a single strand out of line. It's all part of the armor. I ease into a street-side spot. Brandon's Range Rover, Alex's minivan, and Dad's Mercedes already claim the driveway. Of course they do. I might share their blood, but these days, I'm more guest than family. I visit 4 times a year, each one a performance more draining than the last. My heels strike the path to the front door with a rhythm that sounds more like confrontation than welcome. I don't knock. That's not how this works. Pretending to belong here has its own choreography. She's here. Mom's voice floats from the kitchen just as I slip inside, upbeat in pitch, cold in tone. We were about to start without you. No hug, no eye contact, just the usual scent of roast turkey, cranberry sauce, and judgment. Client emergency. I lie without hesitation. It rolls off my tongue more naturally than the truth. That I sat in my car outside, grounding myself with deep breaths. Always working. Dad's voice is low but heavy with implication, his bourbon swirling lazily in hand as he scans my outfit, the way he always does. One day, you'll realize there's more to life than that job. I force a smile. Good to see you too, Dad. I trail the buzz of conversation to the dining room, where Alex fusses over a bouquet in the center of a table gleaming with our mother's best crystal and china. Brandon lounges with his phone, barely glancing up. Mom appears at my side like a well-rehearsed cue. Sarah, she says sweetly, you can sit at the kids' table. The words land like a punch. For a second, I think I must have misheard, but there it is. A fold-out table in the corner, decked in paper plates and ringed with tiny plastic chairs. My nieces and nephews aren't even here yet, their voices floating up from the basement in gleeful shrieks. The kids' table? I ask, my voice even though I can feel the flush climbing my neck. We need the room at the main table for Gregory's parents. Mom explains, her smile unwavering, gesturing toward Alex's in-laws, people I've met maybe twice. I stand there, motionless, thinking of the morning I'd spent picking out this outfit, curling my hair just right, staring myself down in the mirror as I whispered, "You can get through this. 4 hours. That's it." My apartment had felt like a fortress then, my framed award, the promotion email glowing on my laptop screen, Maya's voice echoing in my ear. Why do you even go, Sarah? Honestly, what would happen if you just didn't? Now I'm stuck, between bolting and swallowing my pride. I think about pushing back. My mouth opens, words stirring in my throat, but Brandon finally looks up from his phone, and the moment his eyes meet mine, I see it. The warning, the same look I've seen too many times before. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't cause a scene. It's the look he gave when I hosted my first gallery opening and he never showed. When I told them about my promotion and they barely blinked. When I signed the lease on my own apartment with zero help. Fine. The word is sharp on my tongue and it tastes like defeat. I push my feet forward, one heavy step at a time, toward the kids' table at the far end of the dining room. The room hums with conversation that intentionally excludes me, every word spoken too casually. Like this arrangement is perfectly ordinary. Like seating me here isn't a message spelled out in bright plastic and paper napkins. I sink into a chair designed for someone half my size, knees folded awkwardly under my chin, the edge of the table pressing against my ribs. In front of me, my niece's plate, pastel pink with a glittery unicorn, stares back with wide cartoon eyes that almost seem to laugh at my discomfort. The kids start to trickle in, faces scrunching in confusion at the sight of an adult at their table. Ben, my 7-year-old nephew, tilts his head and asks, "Aunt Sarah, why are you here?" I force a small smile. "Just shaking things up," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. Meanwhile, the main table buzzes with smooth, uninterrupted chatter. Mom leans in toward Alex and asks, How's the baby sleeping these days? Dad's voice rises over the din. Brandon, tell Greg about that promotion. Glasses clink as he lifts his in a toast. To success and family, he says. His eyes sweep the table but skip over me like I'm invisible. The others murmur in agreement, their voices weaving together into a shared celebration I've never been invited into. I watch them from my spot on the fringes, that familiar weight settling in my chest again. Heavy, cold, and certain. This ridiculous little chair, this plastic excuse for a seat, somehow captures everything I've ever felt in this family. Always on the edges, always nearly part of things, but never quite there. Tolerated, yes. Celebrated? Never. Then Lucy, my other 7-year-old niece, knocks over her juice cup. Purple grape juice arcs through the air and splashes directly onto my cream silk blouse. The chill of it sinks into my skin as the fabric soaks it up. Her face crumples with sincere regret. I'm sorry, Aunt Sarah. I reach for a napkin that shreds uselessly in my hand. It's okay, sweetheart, I say gently, though the stain spreads and the cold creeps deeper. And something inside me just shifts. Not with drama, not with some loud snap. It's quiet, like the slow, silent cracking of ice beneath the surface of a frozen lake. I push back from the table, the chair dragging against the hardwood. I fold the soaked napkin carefully and place it next to the unicorn plate. From across the room, Mom frowns. Sarah, is something wrong with your seat? I don't answer. I walk, calm and deliberate, to the front hallway closet and take my coat from its hanger. Now, their eyes finally follow me. It's ironic. Now they see me, just as I'm getting ready to leave. Some traditions, I realize, are not worth keeping. The door clicks softly behind me. I could slam it. My hands want to. But restraint has always been my silent companion. Sarah, where are you going? Mom's voice floats out through the front window, her tone crisp with perfectly measured indignation, the kind that's impressed her tennis club friends for decades. I turn and meet her eyes through the glass. I'm leaving. Enjoy your dinner. No anger, no theatrics. Just the truth, stripped clean of excuses or shame. My hands tremble as I slip the key into the ignition. The Audi purrs to life, the smooth hum of the engine grounding me as I pull away. The silence inside the car is jarring, new, raw, almost too much. 28 Thanksgivings with this family, and I've never once left early. My phone vibrates before I even hit the first red light. Then again. And again. By the time I've driven 3 blocks, the buzzing is constant, a low drumbeat against my thigh. Their fury, now digital. A whole lifetime of disappointment reduced to notifications. I glance down at a red light. Brandon, stop acting like a child. Come back. The irony might be funny if it didn't hurt so much. I was literally sitting at a children's table 10 minutes ago, but I'm the one acting childish, my voicemail indicator flashes. I tap the screen and switch to speakerphone as I drive. Sarah, my father's voice growls through the car, whiskey-worn and brimming with impatience. Enough with this nonsense. Get home now. It's not a plea. It's an order, the kind barked at a subordinate, not words meant for a grown woman carving out her own life. 2 more texts drop in, quick and clipped. Alex, Mom's losing it. Just come back and talk. You're ruining dinner. Then, family chat. What's going on with her? She's always so dramatic. Should we be worried? The group thread bursts open with comments, their concern more of a performance than genuine worry. I didn't walk out to make a scene, but the way they've responded makes it painfully clear they never understood what I needed. I didn't want conflict. I wanted a seat that meant something, a real one. I keep driving without knowing where I'm going, until a neon glow cuts through the dusk. A 24-hour diner hums quietly against the cold, dark November evening. Its parking lot is half full, probably other Thanksgiving escapees hiding from forced smiles and stiff traditions. As I walk inside, the warmth embraces me, not just from the heaters, but from something softer, human. A waitress looks up from behind the counter, her gaze catching on my designer coat, the streak of mascara I haven't had the energy to wipe away. Honey, you look like you could use a coffee, she says, not asking questions I don't want to answer. She simply pours and places the mug in front of me as I slide into a booth. And maybe a slice of pie, she adds, her smile unfiltered, the kind my mother never manages. "That sounds perfect," I reply, voice cracking under the weight of all I've been holding back. While I wait, I scroll through my photos. Each swipe tells the same story I've avoided facing. Christmas, 3 years ago. Everyone grinning near the fireplace while I linger near the edge, barely in the frame. My college graduation. My parents posing proudly with Alex and Brandon in the center. I'm in the background, honors diploma in hand, blurry and forgotten. I stop at a text from Mom last Thanksgiving. "How's that little job going? Still having fun playing boss lady?" I was the youngest senior marketing director in the company's history. But to her, I was playing dress up. Then there's the email from Dad, sent to Brandon and Alex and to me by accident. "This investment opportunity is too complex to include Sarah. She wouldn't understand it anyway." I open my calendar, tracing a line through 8 family events in a row. At each, I was seated apart, side tables, corner spots, sometimes not even in the same room. The pie arrives, flaky golden crust and tangy cherries, and I begin typing a message into the family group chat. I attach the Christmas photo, the one where I'm half cut out, and start writing. The perfect family. Always making sure the youngest one knows her place. I keep going, hands no longer shaking. This isn't just about a seat at the table. It's about being treated like an afterthought for 28 years. When you're ready to treat me like an equal, let me know. My thumb hovers over send. This moment will undo nearly 3 decades of swallowing my words, of pretending that smallness was a virtue. Once I send it, the mask shatters. No more good daughter who swallows indignities with a smile. I press send, then power off my phone completely. The pie tastes better than any Thanksgiving meal I can remember. I savor each bite, leaving a generous tip before walking back to my car. My spine stands taller now, no longer coiled in constant defense. My shoulders sink in a way they haven't in years. "Sarah? Sarah Reeves?" I turn to see Mark Connolly, my AP chemistry lab partner, now a pediatrician if I'm to believe the occasional social media update. "Mark, hey." He studies me with a gaze that's part old friend, part seasoned doctor. "You look different," he says slowly, lighter somehow. I offer a smile, surprised by how real it feels. I finally let go of something I'd been dragging around for far too long. He nods, a gesture that says he gets it, even though he couldn't possibly grasp what today meant. But maybe he recognizes the look of someone who's finally stopped abandoning themselves after years of being their own afterthought. As I drive toward the comfort of my own apartment, not theirs, I wonder what's waiting on the other side of this decision. Can I weather the storm of guilt that's surely forming? Will I falter when my mother's voice cracks or when my father turns cold and sharp? Or is this, finally, the first page of a chapter where I stop folding and start standing? The sky above stretches open, vast and electric with possibilities I never let myself imagine, not while shrinking into the tight corners carved out for me. I drop my keys into the ceramic dish by the front door, one I bought from a small art fair in Portland to commemorate my first real promotion. The sound rings out, echoing against the exposed brick walls of the apartment I fell in love with the moment I toured it 3 years ago, signing the lease without a cosigner, without my parents' approval. I shrug off my designer blazer, still heavy from today's reckoning, and place it carefully in my closet, my hands moving from habit even as my mind spins with the weight of what I've done. I've never left before, not once in 28 years. My apartment hums with a kind of success they never wanted to see. The award on my office wall from last quarter's record-breaking campaign, the signed prints from projects that tripled our clients' revenue. Every sleek piece of furniture in this place, chosen and paid for by me. No leftovers, no bailouts. I kick off my heels and walk barefoot across the hardwood floor to the gallery wall where family photos hang in deliberate symmetry. Mom insisted they be there when she visited, just once, so I wouldn't forget where I came from. My fingers skim the edge of last Christmas's portrait. Brandon and Alex flanking our parents, their picture-perfect families smiling wide. And me, just a touch off-center, a beat behind, my smile barely there. I unhook the frame from the wall. Then one by one, I take them all down, stacking the photos carefully on the coffee table. Not torn, just moved. Out of view, out of reach. The wall feels emptier, but inside I feel a strange fullness. My phone sits untouched on the counter where I left it earlier, its screen dark. The notification light flashes, red and relentless. Layered. I leave it there and uncork a bottle of Pinot instead. Tonight I will sleep without the familiar weight of family-fueled anxiety pressing on my chest. Number 3 a.m. carousel of imagined critiques. No silent rehearsals for conversations I'll never win. Just night and quiet, and the distant hum of traffic seeping through my bedroom window. Morning sunlight spills through the east-facing windows, tracing gold across the quilt at the foot of my bed. I stretch, my body loose in a way I almost don't recognize. For a moment, I forget what happened yesterday. I simply exist in the warmth. Then reality drifts back in, and with it, a strange new feeling in my chest. It's not the old tightness of dread. It's something softer, lighter, something terrifyingly close to freedom. I shower, change into soft loungewear, brew a fresh cup of coffee, and finally reach for my phone. The blinking notification light has turned into a relentless stream of texts, missed calls, and voicemails piling up like snowfall on a forgotten porch. I inhale deeply before pressing the power button, and instantly, a flood of family messages crashes across the screen like a digital tidal wave. Dad, 6:42 p.m. Where are you? Call your mom right now. Dad, 7:15 p.m. Your mother is in pieces. You need to make this right. Mom, 6:38 p.m. Sarah, please come home. We're all worried sick. Mom, 8:24 p.m. Why are you blowing this out of proportion? It was just about where people sat at the table. Brandon, 7:03 p.m. Way to ruin dinner. Mom's in tears and Dad's livid. Good job. Brandon, 10:17 p.m. If this stunt was supposed to earn respect, you missed the mark. You're acting like a brat. Alex, 6:55 p.m. Where the hell are you? Mom's losing it. Alex, 8:42 p.m. Have you even thought about how selfish you're being? As the hours pass, the tone of the messages shifts. Concern curdles into irritation, which then solidifies into outright hostility. Dad's last message veils a financial threat, though I haven't depended on his money since undergrad. My brother implies I'm mentally unstable. My sister throws around family loyalty like it's a sacred vow I've broken, not something they've weaponized. I scroll through the avalanche with a strange sense of clarity taking root. Every sentence reeks of emotional manipulation, the guilt-tripping, the distortion of facts, the collective push to cast me as the villain simply because I refuse to silently absorb another round of disrespect. Then, just as I'm ready to toss the phone aside, a message pops up that halts my scrolling finger. Emma, age 13, Alex's daughter. I get it, Aunt Sav. They make me feel invisible too. My breath catches mid-throat. I read it again, then a third time. Her short message slices cleanly through the noise, a child's truth echoing louder than the adult's accusations. She sees it too, the quiet disregard, the unspoken hierarchy. Before I can gather myself, the phone buzzes again. It's a call from a name I haven't seen in years, Aunt Vivian, my father's sister, the family's ghost, the one who chose ambition over a picket fence and paid the price in silence. Sarah, it's Vivian. Her voice is at once distant and familiar, a half-remembered lullaby stitched with grief and resilience. It's been 6 years, I know, she says. Your cousin Marcus forwarded me your message about the seating thing. She pauses, breath audible. I just want you to know, you're not imagining this. Her words hit like a gust of wind knocking the air out of me. I sink into the couch, blinking away a surge of emotion threatening to spill over the edges of my self-control. I went through the same thing, she continues. When I chose my career instead of having children, they couldn't accept it. So they shrank me down, made me small, stuck me at the kids' table until I just stopped showing up. Old memories surface. Me asking where Aunt Viv was one Christmas, getting the same flat answer every time. She doesn't care about family. It was simple, neat, and let everyone else off the hook. I always wondered why you stopped coming around. I murmur, barely audible. Same reason you walked out yesterday, she says. There comes a point where dignity draws the line. After we hang up, I walk to the drawer, pull out my journal, and flip to a fresh page. Across the top, I scrawl boundaries in bold, steady letters. Then I start writing them out, each line clearer than the last. 1, I'll only show up to family gatherings where I'm treated like a grown woman, not a perpetual afterthought. 2, I'm done brushing off snide comments about the work I've built my life around. 3, I'll only meet on neutral territory, somewhere that doesn't carry the ghosts of old roles and tired power plays. One by one, the boundaries stack up, each one a stone laid in the groundwork of reclaiming my dignity. When I'm done writing them down, I book a last-minute session with my therapist, and then I call Maya. She picks up on the second ring, concern already threading her voice. I did it, I tell her. I finally walked away. Holy shit, Sav, she exhales. I'm so proud of you. A couple hours later, I'm scrolling through a support forum for adults navigating the quiet heartbreak of family estrangement. The stories are almost mirror images of mine, being sidelined in subtle, cutting ways, the slow erosion of worth, the single moment where the fog lifts. It hits me. I'm not some fragile mess. I'm a human being with limits. And by nightfall, I've started putting together my case. Photos, screenshots, dated memories, a running log of every time I was made to feel like I didn't count. I rehearse what I'll say, predicting the arguments they'll toss at me. I'm not here to fight. I'm setting boundaries. This isn't about a single holiday. It's about years of being kept on the outside. I'm not angry. I'm establishing boundaries. This isn't about one dinner. It's about a lifetime of exclusion. I'm not asking for special treatment, just equal footing. I arranged to meet them at a downtown coffee shop, public, neutral ground, a firm end time. I ask Maya to text me midway, just in case. The call comes a few minutes past 9. Mom's name lights up on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before picking up, steadying my breath. Hi, Mom. Sarah, she says, her voice calm but clipped, like someone trying to sound in control. Your father and I have decided we're willing to forgive you for yesterday's behavior. The old me, the one who tolerated being seated at the kids' table, eating off paper plates while the rest of them passed around heirloom silverware, would have leapt at this olive branch, desperate to be back in the fold. But not this time. I straightened my shoulders, my spine drawing tall. That's interesting, I said, voice even, deliberate, because I'm still deciding if I'm willing to forgive you. The line goes so quiet, I check my screen to make sure we're still connected. But no, she's there, breathing, trying to recalibrate in a version of reality where her youngest daughter suddenly rewrote the rules. It was just a table, Sarah. Her voice carries that same patronizing undertone she's used since I was a kid, the one that turned my feelings into overreactions. I wrap my hand tighter around the phone and begin pacing across the polished wood floor of my apartment, the one I paid for on my own, without their help or approval. It wasn't just a table, Mom, I say, steady, my words sharpened from practice with my therapist. It was what the table meant. You're being dramatic. I'm being truthful. I stop in front of the framed marketing award hanging near my desk, grounding myself. The kids' table was just the final insult in a pattern that spanned my entire life. You left me out of Brandon's investment group because, I paused to recall her exact words, it's for people with real careers. You introduced Alex as your successful daughter at the Christmas party last year while I was standing right there. And you've seated me apart from the adults at every single family gathering since I turned 18. Silence stretches again, long enough for me to glance at the screen. Still connected. That's not how it happened, she says at last, but her voice lacks its usual certainty. I have the text, Mom. I have pictures, emails. My fingertip drifts across the compass tattoo inked into my wrist, a quiet reminder to follow my path, not theirs. This isn't about one dinner. This is about 28 years of being treated as less than. She pivots to her next line of defense, her tone edged with wounded pride. After everything we've done for you, what have you done for us lately? The words land sharper than I intended, but I don't pull them back. Let's see, I reply, calm but resolute. My apartment. I paid for that. My education, I earned a full scholarship. My car, my savings, my entire career, every bit of it, I built on my own. Another beat of silence stretches between us, and then, for the first time, she asks, "What do you want from us, Sarah?" It doesn't shock me because it's unexpected, but because it's the first time she's ever truly asked what I want. I want to be treated with the same respect you give Brandon and Alex. My voice loses its sharpness, but not its strength. I want my hard work to be acknowledged. I want a real seat at the table, literally and figuratively. I hear her draw in a breath, quick and shallow. In that moment, I sense something subtle shift. Her usual defenses are faltering. Later that evening, my phone lights up with a group message from Brandon. Emergency family meeting tomorrow night. We need to talk about the Sarah situation. 7 p.m. at Mom and Dad's. Sarah not invited. I can't help but smile. The panic has begun. An hour passes and then a ping. My 13-year-old niece has sent a blurry screenshot from the family's living room. My parents, Brandon and Alex, huddled together, faces tight with concern. Her message reads, "They're freaking out, Aunt Sav. Dad keeps saying you're tearing the family apart." Grandma cried, "It's better than Netflix." The next morning, during a meeting with one of my father's longtime golf buddies, who also happens to be a client, he hesitates, then says awkwardly, "Robert mentioned things are a little tense with your family right now. Hope it all works out." Later, I check Facebook. My mother's posted a vague update, asking for prayers during a difficult time for our family. The comments roll in: concerned friends, vague sympathy, support from people who have no clue what's actually going on. They're losing their grip on the narrative, and that loss terrifies them. I spend 3 hours drafting my email. Every word is deliberate. Each example of exclusion carefully chosen, backed by old photos stretching back years, family portraits where I'm barely in the frame, gatherings where my absence is glaring. When it's done, I send it not just to my parents and siblings, but the entire extended family. "I love you all, but I love myself enough to demand respect," I write in closing, hitting send before hesitation can find its way in. The replies begin to roll in. My cousin Michael, "I've watched this for years and never said anything. I'm sorry, Sarah." My dad's sister, who stopped attending family holidays a decade ago, writes, "It took courage to say what I never could. I'm proud of you, niece." Even my mother's best friend slides into my inbox. "I've been friends with your mom for 30 years, but you're absolutely right. I've seen it too. I hadn't braced for allies. I'd steeled myself to stand alone." "Can we talk?" Alex's voice is smaller than I've ever heard it. I sink into my reading chair, walls still up. "I'm listening." "I've been thinking," she says, her words slow, unsure, "about how we've treated you." I let the silence settle, refusing to rescue her from it. "Greg said something last night," she continues. "He's always wondered why you're treated differently. He thought there must have been something in the past I hadn't told him." "And what did you say?" I ask. "I didn't have an answer," she says, her voice faltering. "I never really thought about how it must have felt from your side. I just accepted it." It's not exactly an apology, but it's the first crack in the facade they've all clung to. When the formal invitation lands in my inbox, I can't help but laugh out loud. The Reeves family has extended an invitation for a dinner conversation, carefully orchestrated by Sarah Reeves herself. The venue? A neutral, upscale restaurant nestled in the heart of the city, not the family's traditional stronghold, where the air tilts in their favor. This time, the meeting aligns with Sarah's availability, not theirs. Every detail, from the choice of location to the time, is a quiet acknowledgement of her newfound leverage. With a faint smile playing on her lips, she types her reply. "I'll be there." For the first time ever, Sarah finds herself setting the terms. She's about to find out whether her family can truly evolve, or if it's time for her to build a future that leaves them behind. The advantage is finally hers, and she's more than ready to use it. She arrives at Marcello's 20 minutes ahead of schedule, the click of her heels echoing off polished marble floors as the hostess escorts her to the table she specifically requested. It's round by design. A circle without a head or foot strips away any built-in hierarchy. "Perfect," she murmurs, shrugging off a blazer dyed in a rich hue that flatters her complexion. The fabric is luxurious. This isn't camouflage anymore, it's combat gear. Carefully, with unshaking fingers, she arranges the name cards exactly as planned. She takes her seat at the metaphorical north, with her parents to either side. Across the table sit Brandon and Alex, a subtle but intentional arrangement drawn like a boundary line in calligraphy and cardstock. The atmosphere in the restaurant is hushed, the soft clink of cutlery against fine dinnerware adding a polite soundtrack to the tension. 7 minutes to go. She smooths her napkin over her lap, though everything already appears perfectly in place. 6 minutes. She fights the temptation to check her phone for a last-minute excuse. When they arrive, together as expected, she doesn't rise. Sarah. Her mother's voice quivers, caught between warmth and uncertainty. Her father's gaze flicks over the seating, noting every deliberate choice. Brandon's jaw locks. Alex's fingers tighten on her handbag strap. "Thank you for coming," Sarah says, her tone calm, composed, more corporate boardroom than family dinner. "Please, have a seat." There's a beat of hesitation as they absorb the new balance of power, but eventually they each comply. No one questions the seating. It's her first quiet win. Her father clears his throat, launching into a clearly rehearsed address. "I think we can all agree that what matters most here is keeping our family together. We need to move past the incident and focus on healing." "Your father's right," her mother adds, her eyes already brimming with well-rehearsed tears. "This has been heartbreaking for all of us, Sarah. We've always been so close." Brandon leans forward, forearms resting on the table. "Some people are just more sensitive than others. Not everything's a federal case." What Brandon means, Alex cuts in quickly, her smile forced and tight, is that we all love you. There must be a way to meet in the middle without turning everything into such a production. Sarah picks up her water glass, sipping slowly, letting the silence stretch until it starts to suffocate them. She's practiced this moment endlessly, mirror rehearsals until the words settled into her bones. "I'd like to set a few guidelines before we begin," she says evenly, placing her glass back on the faint circle it left on the table. "Everyone speaks only for themselves, no interruptions, and we stick to discussing actions, not personalities or character flaws." Her father starts to protest, but she lifts one hand, signaling for him to stop. He cuts himself off, the sentence dying on his lips. "That's 2 wins for me." For nearly 3 decades, I've been subtly, but consistently, left out of what it means to truly belong in this family. The kids' table at Thanksgiving wasn't just a minor slight. It was a vivid symbol of something deeper, a pattern that's defined my adult life. I look each of them in the eye. Can someone explain why a 28-year-old accomplished woman should still be seated with the kids? The silence that follows is complete, heavy in its clarity. Mom fidgets with her napkin, twisting it in her fingers. Dad studies the ice melting in his glass like it might offer a way out. Brandon shifts in his chair, clearly uneasy. Alex avoids my eyes, her gaze fixed on the tablecloth. At last, Mom speaks, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I suppose I just never saw you as fully grown without a husband. That's how I was raised. A woman becomes whole when she has a family of her own." Dad's words come out rough, like he's chewing on gravel. "Back in my day, success wasn't just about your career. It was about building something lasting, a legacy. Your job, it's just different." Brandon, surprisingly, adds with awkward honesty, "Maybe I've been kind of threatened by how easy you make things look. You didn't need connections or Dad's pull like I did. It was easier to downplay your success than admit that." Alex's eyes glisten, real tears this time, not the theatrical ones she's been known for. "I always knew it wasn't right the way we treated you," she says, voice cracking. But admitting that meant facing what I allowed, what I did. She reaches across the table, stopping just short of my hand. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Really, truly sorry." Their words sink in. Something inside me shifts, not quite forgiveness, but something close to understanding. For the first time in years, maybe ever, we're being honest with each other. "My expectations going forward are simple," I say, my voice steady but not harsh. "I'll be part of this family as an equal adult. My career, my choices, they deserve respect, even if you don't get them. I want my successes to be recognized, just like Brandon's, just like Alex's." I lace my fingers together and rest them on the table. "I want relationships with all of you, but it has to be built on mutual respect. If that breaks down again, I won't hesitate to step away." They trade looks, the kind of wordless communication I've been shut out of for years. Finally, Dad gives a small nod. "You've really grown up, Sarah," he says, and for the first time, it sounds a little like pride. I meet his eyes without flinching. "I've been grown, you're just now noticing." The check arrives, set down squarely between the two of us. Before he can react, I pick it up and tuck my credit card into the folder without even glancing at the total. No one misses the significance. As the waiter takes the check, Mom gently places a hand on my wrist. Do you think we can really change after all this time? Her question floats between us, vulnerable in a way I never thought I'd hear from her. I don't offer a neat answer. For once, I don't try to fix it all. Is it truly possible to rewrite the rules of a family after decades? Or am I only setting myself up to be hurt again? My kitchen bustles with energy and laughter, a soundtrack of life echoing through the open space. The scent of golden roasted turkey blends with the tartness of cranberry sauce and the earthy aroma of fresh herbs, comforting and familiar, yet somehow infused with something new. I glance at my sleek silver watch, not to check how long until it's over, but to make sure everything's running smoothly. Aunt Sarah, is this enough sage for the stuffing? Lucy asks, balanced on a step stool beside me, her 13-year-old hands measuring with care. Perfect, I say, squeezing her shoulder gently. You've got a real gift for this. The dining table-me table stretches through the living area of my apartment. A wide, inviting table stretched across the dining area, offering a seat for everyone. No plastic foldouts, no banishment to the sidelines. Everyone belonged. Mom appeared quietly by my side, a casserole dish balanced in her hands. Where do you want this, Sarah? She asked, her voice as gentle as ever. Even after all this time, the question still caught me off guard. Over on the sideboard, I replied. We'll bring everything out together. She nodded and placed her iconic green bean casserole exactly where I'd pointed. That tiny moment, her following my lead, felt like a private triumph. Dad lingered near the wine rack, bourbon untouched, his eyes roaming without settling. That campaign you led for the Children's Hospital, really impressive. My golf buddy's kid does marketing at NYU, said he saw it. I noticed how he fumbled for eye contact, how his fingers tapped against the glass he didn't sip from, but his words rang true. Thanks, Dad, I said. It boosted donations by 37%. Then Brandon appeared from the living room, for once without his phone in hand. Sarah, you got a minute? He asked, hesitant. I'm thinking about making a lateral move to Thompson and Brooks. The money wouldn't be great at first, but the creative freedom. His voice trailed off, doubt flickering in his eyes. I nearly dropped the serving spoon. Brandon coming to me for advice about his career? Well, that depends on your 5-year plan, I said, measuring my words. Thompson's digital branch is scaling fast. Could be a smart step. Before I could say more, Alex arrived, her newborn tucked against her shoulder. Could you hold her while I finish setting up? She asked. She's been cranky all morning, but she always calms down with you. She didn't wait for a reply, just nestled the baby into my arms. Not handed off like an afterthought, but trusted, an equal. The weight of the baby felt just right. We get each other, don't we? I whispered to her, and she blinked up at me, calm and curious. Dad glanced around the apartment, nodding approvingly. This place is something else, he said. You were smart to buy here. Mom reappeared from the dining room, holding measuring spoons. Sarah, could you sit the children? She began, then froze mid-sentence, the color draining from her face as the room went quiet. Every pair of eyes shifted to us. She swallowed, then tried again. Actually, I'd love your help arranging everyone. You always know where people belong. Our eyes locked, and in that look, something deeper passed between us. Acknowledgement, respect. Happy to, I said, accepting both her revision and the quiet shift it represented. Just then, Maya stepped out from the guest bathroom. Her presence in this family space no longer felt like a guest star's cameo, but a permanent part of the cast. Near the window, Alex's in-laws chatted easily with my dad's sister, who'd been absent from holidays for nearly a decade. I saw my niece explaining something to Maya's daughter, her face glowing with pride. My aunt taught us about boundaries, she said. Slipping away for just a moment, I stood alone in the kitchen. Last year's memory returned, the humiliation of the kids' table, the plastic chair, the cartoon plate. That wasn't just a seating arrangement, it was a symbol of how I'd been seen. I reached into the drawer, pulled out my gratitude journal, and wrote one sentence. Today, I sat at the table I deserve. When we finally gathered for the meal, hands linked all around the table, Dad asked us to share what we were thankful for. When it was my turn, I spoke simply, growth in all of us. The quiet looks passed across the table said everything. Some traditions deserve to be broken, so better ones can be built. My place card stands at the head of the table, my name written in my own hand.